Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. Today's episode, I am going to be joined by Andrew Smith. He is the CEO at Outrider. Outrider is doing something very exciting. When I first came across Outrider, I think it was on LinkedIn, I was really impressed with what they're doing. They are actually pioneering in the autonomous yard operation. So they actually have basically an autonomous switcher for your yard operations, which is pretty impressive. So Andrew's going to talk to us about that, how that idea came about and how it actually works and how people are utilizing it. So Andrew, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. These are strange times at present, but everything is going very well with the company. Thank you.
Yes, definitely strange times, and definitely a good time for automation to keep things going. So you guys are playing a key part in that, I'm sure. So tell us a little bit about Outrider, what it is, and also tell us a little bit about how the idea of Outrider came about.
Sure, Kevin. I guess it's useful to start off by providing some context. There are over 10 billion tons of freight that's being moved on an annual basis in the United States alone. And the majority of that freight passes through one type of distribution yard or another. And these distribution yards, the objective is to keep goods moving quickly through what might be a warehouse or a factory environment. These trailers that pass through these distribution yards are getting dropped off by over-the-road trucks who often have to wait a whole bunch of time in order to be told where to put the trailer to get in and out of the gate. It's a hazardous environment. You've got 80,000-pound pieces of equipment with people getting in and out of these vehicles all the time. It depends on lots of diesel fuel to just move trailers a few hundred feet. It's a very repetitive set of tasks, and it can be very inefficient when the trailer gets put in the wrong place or isn't at a loading dock at the right time. And so this is a real pain point in the supply chain, and Outrider was formed to address all these pain points and essentially define the new normal in autonomous zero-emission supply chain operations in these distribution yards.
Definitely, and you have a good point there, and I love the context that you put around it in terms of how much freight is actually moving around, and it's just an insane amount. If you think about any product that you buy at all, at some point it's in a truck, right? So the fact that you guys are looking at these pain points, and it's definitely a pain point, and like you said, I think one of the biggest ones is if a trailer gets lost in your yard, if you have a big yard. That can be a real problem for you. So talk to us a little bit about the Outrider solution and how it actually works. Did I kind of describe it correctly in the beginning? It's kind of like an autonomous switcher, basically.
Absolutely. So for people that are picturing these distribution yards, and many of your listeners obviously know about them, switchers or shifters or yard trucks or terminal trucks are all names for these yard trucks that we are automating. But early on in the company's founding, what we recognized was automating a truck alone, automating one of these existing trucks to move trailers around the yard is not enough to really solve the problems of our enterprise customers. It's critical to solve autonomous yard operations to not just automate the truck, but all the other manual tasks that are critical for a yard to operate. And that's what we've done. And so we have a team that is focused on the software and robotics and upfitting to autonomously move the vehicle and the trailers around the yard, as well as the other pieces of software to control those assets in your yard and all the other manual tasks that people do to connect those trucks to and from trailers, move them to and from loading bays safely, et cetera. So it's really an integrated approach we took when looking at the challenge.
Interesting. And I think what's really interesting about it too is that, autonomous driving in a sense has been such kind of a hot topic of how are we going to figure that out as a humanity in whole, like, right? How are we going to tackle that and all those types of things? And you guys have found a way to do it in a smaller space, right? But you've also kind of added another element to it where the vehicle itself is actually attaching to a trailer and moving this weight around. So now how did the technology, I guess, kind of develop, and is it like a typical truck that you're attaching your technology to, or is it like a built out truck for you specifically?
So great question. So I talked a little bit about the fact that what Outrider is offering is an integrated solution. And you can think about our product as having three key components.
Okay.
So the first is a web-based interface that allows customers to easily operate the yard with a click of a button or a swipe of a finger, literally being able to dispatch these autonomous trucks to go move things around the yard. So you have that web-based interface. The second component is simple site infrastructure that allows these autonomous vehicles to operate safely in a distribution yard. And then the third piece is a electric vehicle platform that we actually source from third-party OEMs, and then layer on top of that the sensor and compute hardware that allows us to make that fully autonomous. And one other special feature that we do really differently than anyone else in the world is we also layer on top of that a proprietary robotic system that allows that shifter, that switcher truck, as they're called, to autonomously connect to the trailer. What that means is not only do we have to connect what's called the kingpin of the trailer, which your listeners are probably pretty familiar with, but we also have to connect a pressurized air line to release the brakes on the trailer. And all of those systems are robotic and autonomous from a simple user interface.
Interesting stuff. And I mean, it's really pretty impressive because you have a lot of different things working together in order to make that move happen. So now in terms of, so you're taking the person out of the yard, right? And so now where is the person now that's controlling it and making these moves? Is that somebody that's within the facility?
Exactly. So the way the system works is at a typical distribution yard facility, you have a person that is overseeing the warehouse operations and then the yard operations. And there's a couple different ways that customers do this. But essentially what we are doing is turbocharging the productivity of these individuals who oversee warehouse and yard operations, that rather than having an army of people sitting and idling diesel trucks, dealing with different surges in demand, you have a operator, and most of these dispatching of trucks can be essentially automated, that a warehouse automation system calls for one of these trailers. It feeds into our system, which dispatches one of our autonomous vehicles to go move the trailer to the right loading dock or pull it away from a loading dock to a parking spot. So yes, we provide tools for on-site operations, and these tools, essentially, this Outrider system then delivers these dramatic increases in efficiency because you're not having people run around try to do this stuff. Dramatically increases safety because you have people out of the yard. Enhances the sustainability of the operation because it's a much more resilient system and isn't emitting diesel fuel along the way. So you have this dramatic increase of productivity in how you run these key points in the supply chain.
Really interesting. So now, and the person that's making these moves in the system, right? So I guess they're looking at essentially what is like a yard management software that you guys provide?
That's correct. So our system has the ability to integrate with any existing yard management software that customers have, or other warehouse management systems, or it can serve as a standalone system. What it does, though, is it takes, again, a lot of the solutions that have been out there have been sort of Band-Aids for the issue that there's a significant shortage of labor in the industry. It's a dull, dirty, and dangerous job. And so our system turns digital all these processes. One thing that's important to note is you ask about what the role of these users are. Right. These users, this is not teleoperation. You're not having to train people to drive vehicles remotely. These vehicles are fully autonomous. They understand the environment that they're operating in. They are designed to do these moves and calculate their trajectories all automatically based on the mission that they've been provided.
Interesting. So now from you talked about safety a little bit. So from a safety standpoint, and I guess just an overall deployment of this, now how is one of the big things with autonomous vehicles and robotics is how these vehicles are kind of viewing their area and how they're able to locate themselves. So now, how does that work with these vehicles? Is there like something that's guiding them, or they're able to see on their own in some way?
So these vehicles very much are able to see on their own, but one of the things that really differentiates Outrider with a lot of the other autonomous trucking or autonomous vehicle activity out there is that we are focused on a very defined environment, and that provides us a lot clearer path to bring the promise of autonomous vehicles into the market as quickly as possible. So a good market opportunity for autonomous vehicles will include three things: a well-defined environment, which clearly these distribution centers are. Right. You have a place where you've got a set of discrete repetitive tasks where on a daily basis, you may have a distribution center where you have hundreds of trailers coming in, they're being parked, they're being moved to get unloaded, they're being repositioned to parking spaces, they're being moved to get reloaded, they're getting repositioned for pickup. So literally hundreds or thousands of trailer moves a day. It's a very discrete set of repetitive tasks. And then the third piece is you have to make sure it's a real value proposition to the customer, like we spoke about before. So with these different pieces in place, it's a great place for current generation automation technology, as long as you bring all these key pieces together and provide an integrated solution to the customer. But yes, our vehicles very much see the environment around them, but we also do things in how we think about the site to ensure the overall safety of the system.
Okay, so it's seeing for itself. So now let's talk a little bit about, I guess, deployment, right? So on deployment now, when we look at autonomous vehicles inside the warehouse or robots inside the warehouse, a lot of times they need to be mapped to their area and what the warehouse looks like. Is that similar deployment on this side, or how does deployment work with Outrider?
So what you're saying is very relevant. Obviously, there's been a lot of innovation and a lot of deployment of systems inside warehouses over the last 1 to 2 decades of fully autonomous warehouses. We're clearly bringing the next natural step to an automated supply chain. Right. We like to say having an automated warehouse, but operating your yard like you have been for the last 50 years, a little bit like having a really nice shirt to wear to the prom, but no pants. So we're providing those pants. The answer to your question about the setup process, we have a very simple site setup process, which does involve creating an operational map of the area and deploying certain equipment to allow for autonomous operations. But what we recognized early on is, unlike a warehouse, we do have relative consistency, and as long as we provide very simple modular infrastructure to allow rapid deployment of these autonomous vehicles, it will be very simple for a customer to roll this out across their network compared to something that's inside the warehouse. Right now, as we spoke about coming out of our stealth mode in February of this year, we are currently working with 5 different Fortune 200 companies, and each of these companies have dozens or hundreds of distribution center locations across the country. Right. And so having a simple rollout procedure and simple process for mapping out those areas of operation for the autonomous vehicle was key to how we developed our product.
Definitely. You just talked about, coming out of stealth mode in February and working with these customers. So So is this actually being used by any of them yet, or we're still in like the kind of testing phase?
So at this point in time, we are operating pilot activities with multiple Fortune 200 companies,
Okay.
which involves operating the vehicle system in distinct areas of the yard. Our product roadmap very much has us scaling within given sites of these priority customers, and then scaling across their distribution networks. The team that we assembled, and one of the reasons that we've been able to bring this technology so far at this point, is this is a team that's been working on autonomous vehicle technology for over a decade and really recognized some of the safety requirements for autonomous vehicles to create value in the near term. And so we worked carefully with our customers and this team to develop a safety case in order to work in all these customer applications we're focused on in the near term. And these close customer relationships, as we scale the product, are very connected to rolling this out in a safe way across an industrial network.
Definitely. I think that's the right way to do it. So what have the, I guess, kind of initial findings been, and what, how have they seen, I guess, improvements in their tests in terms of improvements to the efficiency and productivity on their side?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
So the real value of the system comes in three big buckets, and I think all these things are that much more relevant in our current post-virus or current COVID-19 world. The key areas of value, one of those is just overall efficiency, and that efficiency comes in all sorts of areas. Efficiency in the time it takes for an over-the-road vehicle to come drop off and pick up a trailer, knowing exactly where a trailer is to be dropped, and then have that trailer be moved around the yard and then be positioned for pickup, means you can dramatically decrease the wait time of an over-the-road vehicle. So you can imagine that right now, if an average trucker turn time at one of these distribution facilities might be 45 minutes, if we can save if we can shave a few minutes or tens of minutes off that time by knowing exactly where these trailer assets are, it results in millions of days of trucker time saved just from the over-the-road side of the operation. With internal efficiency, I mentioned before, making sure that the right trailer is in the right spot dramatically enhances the flow of goods through these warehouses, as well as the efficiency of not having to constantly find and hire drivers to deal with peak demands in your supply chain operation. So big bucket of efficiency savings. From a safety standpoint, all the customers we're working with are looking to get people away from these 80,000 pound pieces of equipment. And then from a sustainability standpoint, not only are these customers looking to reduce their overall carbon footprint, as well as taking the hassle of refueling and emissions treatments off their site, but they're also looking for a better place for their warehouse workers, where they're not exposed to the emissions of the constantly idling engine of these yard trucks. All of these benefits are what these customers are seeing.
Definitely, yeah, and I think that's great stuff. And I like the fact of you talked about the labor and the flexibility there in terms of when it's surge time and peak and all this. And I see in operations that I've worked in where we don't necessarily do a lot of moves, but at times we need a move done, and it's kind of like we're just waiting on the next person that's going to drop a trailer and just be like, hey, can you move this trailer for us? But being able to have this kind of system in place, I can see down the road, it's going to be a lot easier because you can just kind of call it up whenever it's needed. And if it's not needed, then it can sit there. You're not paying somebody to sit there essentially. So definitely a big savings there. So now you mentioned a lot you mentioned a lot about the sustainability side. So I think that's really great too, especially, making companies and, recognizing in the supply chain that we need to be better corporate citizens as a whole and come more at that sustainability side, because a lot of what we do, especially in distribution, we create a lot of waste with packaging and all these different things. So any way that we can become more sustainable is a good thing. So talk to us a little bit about, why, I guess, is sustainability and making sure that these vehicles are environmentally friendly. Why has it been such a core mission for Outrider, and why is that so important to you guys?
So any of the waste you talked about, and especially vehicle emissions, is inefficiency, sort of the exact opposite of what we stand for and most people in the supply chain work towards. Right. I personally have been focused on the rapid commercialization of environmental technologies throughout my career, and was involved in a number of technologies, whether it be electric vehicles or wind energy or transportation technology. I built a company that made semi-trailers more aerodynamic and fuel efficient prior to Outrider. But so there was some of the mission behind the founding of this company, as well as a lot of observation of what was happening with autonomous vehicles. What's one of the reasons that the sustainability message has been key to our mission is that at the end of the day, if you're thinking about the yard of the future, it's not automating a bunch of idling diesel trucks. It is a zero emission autonomous future where with a click of a button with zero emissions, you can dispatch trailers around your yard. The challenges of electric vehicles are clearly met within a yard environment where you have a place where it's easy for trucks to charge during downtimes in the operation. The cost of operation of an electric yard truck is far superior than a diesel counterpart. There's less moving parts, the maintenance costs are less, and the fueling cost is less as well. Right. And what's really unfortunate is the way a lot of companies run their spotting or yard operations is they will contract someone for the labor, but they will pay for the fuel themselves. So you literally have tens of thousands of diesel-powered trucks running highly inefficiently, where the transportation company running those are just billing those fuel costs through to the end customer. So a lot of inefficiency in the system. And when we thought about not providing Band-Aids to the yard, but really setting an example for what the future yard looks like, we realized we could bring this integrated solution together. Right now, the 50,000 plus diesel yard trucks that run our distribution centers across the country emit around 3.8 million metric tons on an annual basis of CO2. And that's equivalent of essentially having a large coal-fired power plant just powering our fleet of vehicles to move trailers around the yard. By accelerating autonomy and electrification into these yards, we can eliminate a full coal-fired power plant in the process.
Definitely. I think that's great stuff. I mean, I really think it's really important to try to address all of the sustainability issues in the supply chain side. And I love that you guys are pushing that too, and you're being conscious of not just making something automated, but making it automated and good for the environment and good for just the culture overall. So it's really great stuff. And I'm curious about, so it's an electric vehicle, right? And actually I was excited about this. I was telling my dad about it, and he was like, they're electric. Like, how do they get that much power for an electric vehicle? So can you talk to a little bit about that and how the power works? Because I have an electric vehicle myself, actually. It's a small little Hyundai. So, I think a lot of times people look at electric vehicles and they think maybe they're not as powerful and maybe can't envision them pulling a trailer. So talk to us a little bit about how the electrical vehicle works in that sense and how it gets the power to do that.
Sure. Well, a couple things there. One, battery technology has advanced significantly over the last decade. And even the last couple of years. So not only do you have all the power that you need, you've got this instant torque, so you can actually outperform a diesel truck. And then secondly, there's enhanced charging capacity so that these vehicles in a 2-hour fast charge period can actually replenish themselves, and they can be charged opportunistically throughout the day. So in a typical distribution yard, you'll be able to, depending on the industry, you'll have different peak periods during the course of the day when a lot of the over-the-road trucks are coming in and out, for example. And then during the non-peak periods, you can do a lot of what we call pruning of the yard, pre-positioning trailers where they need to be with your autonomous system. In that same way, our system is able to determine when the most or least activity is taking place in the yard and allow that or dispatch that vehicle to charge itself during those down periods of time. Because you can put so much torque to the wheels with an electric system, you can move any of these containers easily. You can move them for long periods of time. And then in that opportunistic time period, these vehicles can be charging in these windows. Anything from 15 minutes to 2.5 hours is valuable time for these vehicles to charge themselves. The other just benefit that I mentioned before from a reliability standpoint is because this is an incredibly smart vehicle, because we have constant diagnostics on these vehicles, we're able to know, or I should say that the dispatcher, the person that's controlling these multiple vehicles at once or overseeing the system, they can have constant information on vehicle health, and the vehicles are essentially always operating at preferred speeds and not banging too forcefully into things as an untrained human driver might do. So you have this very clean, very controlled system, which is exactly what you want in the supply chain.
Wow, that's really impressive. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have thought of like everything in this ecosphere, I guess, and so it's really impressive how all these things have come together, and you're utilizing all these different technologies from different aspects of just, I guess, the world in general, and bringing them together to really make yard operations and yard management truly autonomous and in the best way possible. So I really, really like this, and I'm really interested to see how this grows and how companies start to adopt it and really the benefits that they start to see. So speaking of that, what is the future of Outrider? And I guess I'm wondering, does Outrider eventually move outside of the yard?
So to make this company and to bring these different pieces together into an integrated system, from the very founding of the company, we recognized we needed a very unique team. And so that team consists of these autonomous vehicle experts, robotics experts, and then experts in logistics and supply chain operations that we brought together to put this unique system in place. Just as a little more background, some of our founding autonomous vehicle engineers had actually built a autonomy and robotics company over 15 years ago. They were acquired by Lockheed Martin, and they then ran every major Department of Defense ground vehicle autonomy program over the last decade. So they had built lots of trucks that had to endure lots of difficult environments to be autonomous. And that's the team that said, hey, this is the perfect application for these systems. Let's bring the band back together and build this system together. So we brought together this team that understood really harsh environments and understood autonomy. By building this really unique team and realizing what can happen when you bring together these different domains, what we've recognized is we clearly have a multi-billion-dollar opportunity in these yard operations, but certainly the team is completely capable of automating all types of industrial systems going forward. So we're very focused on this multi-billion-dollar opportunity in front of us, but certainly have the capacity to automate just about any type of vehicle, and not only that, layer on top of it management software and other robotic systems.
Really interesting stuff. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have an amazing team that definitely has the talent to do all of these things. So I can see why, all these different parts have come together to make this awesome solution. So Andrew, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. How can people find out more information about Outrider?
We encourage people to visit our website at outrider.ai, and we are looking forward to engaging people across the supply chain and understanding how we can help them with efficiency, safety, and sustainability. And certainly in the current crisis that we face right now, the COVID virus, we are eager to help people think about creating a safe and resilient supply chain for the long term. So please visit our website and don't hesitate to reach out.
Definitely. And I'm happy that we could talk to you and get this out to more people, because I think it's really exciting stuff. And I think it's a game changer, and just the way that you guys have kind of designed the solution overall. I mean, like I said before, I think you guys have thought of everything, and talking to you now and learning about it. I mean, it's really great. And I'll definitely put the website on thenewwarehouse.com as well, so people can check it out. And I will say the website has some cool videos too, so you can see actually how this thing works. And it's really, really interesting. So Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Kevin, thank you so much.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.